Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Sam Peoples here, United People's TV. Welcome to another show. Tuesday, the 11th of Feb. We've got a full week here before the game against Spurs. Actually got some time to breathe and some time to have some conversations. I want to run through this morning. There's an article from Fabrizio over on Give Me Sport where he speaks about Garnacho, the January window, summer plans, Amorim's focus, the buzzword, which is going to be the buzzword for a long time now, intensity. It's just like the United buzzword. We'll run through everything that's written inside the article about players that United want to sign and the types of players and the players that will be leaving, Garnacho and what happened with Napoli and Chelsea. And then we can have what else we got on here? United being linked with the sporting director from Athletic Club, which I think is an interesting one. I'll run through that. Going to speak about Ineos being sued by the All Blacks. I mean, that doesn't directly relate to Manchester United, but it doesn't help that sort of public image and confidence that people have in Ineos. I'll run through that. And, yeah, a little bit more on the Sancho comments. And as always, you fire in your questions, and I will try and answer and get as many of you involved as I possibly can. Let's see who's here from the mod and the member gang. Let's run through it. Good morning to you, and Carl. I can see you both there. Who else is here? I can't see any other names in blue. Teresa, good morning to you. John T, Matt, we've got the Real Seat, we've got Paul, we've got Matthias, Foxy, Real Recognize Real, Pyro, Steve, Rookie 11, that's a new name, welcome aboard, and Rex, good morning to all of you. Please do get involved in the comments, in the chat. Let's kick on with the show. Now, this obviously is a talking point. The All Blacks are suing Ineos. Now, for a summary of what this partnership was or is, as far as I can see, it was a 6-year partnership that was halfway through. And according to the Telegraph, Ineos have not paid their first instalment of the 2025 sponsorship fee, and they're pissed. All right. In a statement released to Telegraph Sport, New Zealand Rugby has said that Ineos, which agreed to a 6-year deal to become the official performance partner to the All Blacks, failed to pay their first instalment of the 2025 sponsorship fee. It said that this confirmed Ineos' decision to exit the 6-year agreement and that it now had no option but to launch legal proceedings. Ineos had not commented, but the page on the website about the partnership with the All Blacks now simply says not found. So, I mean, it doesn't really sound good, if I'm being completely honest. Yeah, shirt sponsorship, a performance partner, wherever it was. They were a partner of the All Blacks and had been for 6 years. So what's that? Ends in 2027, since 2021. No, 2021 till 2027? Halfway through? 2022. There you go. I've got my maths there. Doesn't reflect well. And Birdie B, that's kind of partly why I wanted to have a conversation here this morning. It's got absolutely nothing to do with the fact that Ineos are running out of cash. Ineos have got an absolute shed load of cash. That is not the issue. But it kind of follows on from, I'm not sure if you saw this or what this was, but the America's Cup is an annual sailing competition. And Ineos sponsored a team, Ineos Britannia, that Ben Ainsley was the captain of, and they qualified for the America's Cup for the first time since 1964, and that was this year. And then they lost to New Zealand in the final. Imagine this is all just a big comeback and a screw you from New Zealand's sailing team winning the America's Cup. That would be petty. You can't really do that. But Ineos are going to be back in the America's Cup this year, but without Ben Ainsley. And I think Ben Ainsley is going to be suing or something legal to do with that. He's not happy. And now the All Blacks are doing the same. I don't think this has any direct impact on Manchester United. But in terms of, as I said, public perception and public confidence in Ineos and their ability across their sporting ventures, if you want to call it that, it doesn't reflect well. So I'm going to be interested to sort of follow this story, see what happens, see if anything happens, or if there is actual some sort of reason behind why this has happened, or whether it's just a mistake. All right? Takeoff is saying, how does this affect United? Should we be worried? No, that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. This has nothing to do with Manchester United at this time. So it's just about optics of, or Ineos are doing this over there, therefore that means they're going to fail completely here, which is what the link with some people would do. However, it doesn't look good, does it? You can't just randomly pull out of a shirt sponsorship deal halfway through. So I'm going to follow that one and see if anything more comes of it, all right? But as it stands, there is no direct link to Manchester United. Just be aware that that's happened, all right? Now, the main story that I want to run through today is an article from Fabrizio Romano on Ruben Amorim, on the summer plans, on the January window, and United's focus on intensity. Because boy, oh boy, that has been the painful conversation. And I actually went back and I looked through a video that I did I dated it, of course, dated it, that's how YouTube works, 15th of November. And inside that video was all about how Ruben Amorim came in, and one of the first conversations he had with Manchester United's board was, I need players with intensity. So any conversation we're about to have today is not a reaction to how we played at the weekend against Leicester or how we played in the game before. This is a conversation that existed before Ruben Amorim really had even got started. That's just a reflection of looking at the club, looking at what's happened at the club over the last couple of years and going, my God, these players just aren't fit enough. Or either fit enough, and then we go back to that question about what causes the lack of intensity, whether it's a lack of fitness, mentality issue, tactical issue, player quality issue. I'll be honest, all these things are probably true. I'm going to run through this article because I think there's some interesting talking points that we can discuss here today. All right. Starting with this. The fact that Garnacho was key to less January business at Manchester United, right? Talking about the options of Garnacho leaving, the fact that Napoli offered 50 million euros. We said no. 70 million, they never came in, and there was no agreement on personal terms. And this bit down here. In the meantime, Garnacho started training exactly as Ruben Amorim wanted. And the club decided to continue with Garnacho rather than selling him mid-season. Now, I think that's probably like incorrectly worded there. Like Garnacho started training exactly as Ruben Amorim wanted. Really makes it sound like Ruben Amorim's trying to pigeonhole Garnacho into training a very specific and certain style of way. And if you don't do it, then you're gone. No, it's all about like the minimum standards. Garnacho started training exactly as Ruben Amorim expected, I think is a better word there, rather than wanted. And it's like if you look at Garnacho's goal and assist return, has he scored under Ruben? I can't remember if he scored under Ruben Amorim. It couldn't have been many if he has. But that's not the reason why Garnacho has actually impressed, because I think if you're looking at United in these last few weeks, I would say Garnacho is one of the better performers. Is he better off the bench right now? Yep. That's true. Last season, he ended up being, 38 games? Was it last season? It was last season. 38 games in a row that he played. The response from Garnacho has been impressive. Yeah, he did get an assist. I think something that Garnacho's definitely doing is getting his head up, and the cutbacks are really coming from him now. Volpez, you're not wrong when you say that. Imagine a coach having to tell a professional player how to train like a professional player. I suppose to a certain degree, certain coaches have different standards, right? Certain coaches have different approaches. So what works for one coach who's an elite coach might not work for another coach who's an elite coach. There are different ways of approaching training. But I thought that was an interesting part, the idea that had Garnacho not responded, had Garnacho, I suppose, responded in the way that Marcus Rashford responded, and the club were kind of left with no choice, we probably would have had to, we would have been left with a decision to either accept a bid that was lower than what we thought Garnacho was worth, or have a player inside the squad who really didn't want to be there for the second half of the season. I still have questions about whether Garnacho can truly fit inside this system. Because the best characteristics of Garnacho still exist when Garnacho is able to play like he played last season. When he is playing more direct. When he is able to run at a player. When he is able to skip on the outside. That's still the best characteristic of Garnacho. Now, he still has to develop, but he's got a few months here to develop his game. But let's find out about it. Can he work on the inside? Because that's what the inside forwards are supposed to be in Amorim's system, right? The width is supposed to come from the two overlapping fullbacks. The two inside forwards are supposed to cut inside, be more central, and make runs to the edge of the box and drive. Sure, they go on the outside sometimes. But that's still where I question Garnacho and what I'm looking forward to seeing him develop in the second half of the season. But that's kind of a conversation that we've already had. Let me see what you're saying down here, right? Nuruddin, I can see you there. What you're saying, sir. Garnacho fits the system only if he grows to his potential, which he is far from at this moment in time. Garnacho has shown in his response from being dropped against City that he is willing to learn and to take on new ideas from Amorim, saying, okay, right, I know you can do this, but how about this? This fits my system more. And he's putting his head down and he's trying to learn. Whether that's going to be enough, we'll find out. Scott saying, I'm worried Mainoo is starting to look like an undefined midfielder, not able to nail down a specialised midfield role. A couple more midfield signings could be it for him. I wouldn't say it could be it for him. That's extremely doom and gloom. But we can run through this article now. It talks about the signings, the inside forward signings. I still question as to where, the major investment should go in the summer if I had to choose between central midfield and the inside forward position. Because it would kind of depend on where you see Mainoo and Bruno's futures being. If you're playing Bruno deeper, properly deeper, and he's going to sort of adapt his role, do you then spend more on an inside forward? But then what about Kobbie Mainoo? Whereas there's the whole summer strategy certainly isn't defined yet. And these are just like initial conversations around it. I'll probably do a lunchtime video on this. I think it deserves it today. Because it's all based around this concept of intensity, right? And this is what he's saying on how the quiet January could be good news for United. Now, look, the quiet January was frustrating. Will it hurt the second half of our season? We'll find out. I'm glad that United didn't spend 10 million euros on bringing in Matthias Tell. There's no way that he would have been able to return the goals that United needed to warrant spending that much, which would have been basically all the money that we saved on Rashford's wages, on Anthony's wages. Who else went out on loan? On Malasia's wages. Would all have been spent and money on top for Tell on loan, which I don't think would have been I don't think that would have been good. I know that we don't have enough creative players right now. We don't have anybody. Wow, that's a lie. We don't have anybody who's doing it consistently. But whether or not this quiet January proves to be a prelude for a summer which is successful is ultimately will define whether it was worth it or not. If this quiet January is then followed up by a disappointing summer, then that's an issue. Now, let's see what Fabrizio is reporting on this, okay? This quiet January transfer window could prove to be good news for United in the summer, as they didn't spend money on loan deals and didn't proceed with any panic buys to give priority to the real changes in the upcoming months. Now, time will tell whether that's just a lie or not. Several players are expected to leave, including Casemiro, Christian Eriksen, Lindelof, and Johnny Evans. Well, if I remember correctly, and let me just see if I am, all right? Man United. Let's just get a list up of Man United contracts. Because I believe that Johnny Evans, Eriksen, and Lindelof, all three of them, well, there you go. So that's kind of Captain Obvious there. 3 players who will be leaving United in the summer will be 3 players whose contracts run out and expire. There's top tier reporting there, Fabrizio. Thank you very much for that. And Casemiro, well, we know that Casemiro... The same problem exists, by the way, with Casemiro in the summer that we just had right now. When does his contract run out? Is it 2027? I bet you it is. Oh, no, it's 2026. So Casemiro is going to have 1 year left on his contract come this summer. I still think you're going to struggle. I still think you're going to struggle. But Fabrizio's saying that all of those players will be leaving, right? And this bit down here, the clear intention is to invest in younger players with salaries in line with the new plan, a bit like Dorgu coming in for the price that he came in for, and also on, I think, 30 to 40 grand a week. That's not going to cause any long-term damage to our football club, even if it doesn't work out with Patrick Dorgu. And this bit here. Trusting Ruben Amorim's idea as he keeps telling the club how crucial it is to bring in players who can give intensity to the squad. This is the key word that will dominate the summer window for United. And this has, as I said there, and I'll show you the video from November in the lunchtime video. This is the buzzword. This has been the buzzword at United for, you would probably say, what was the buzzword when Ten Hag came in? I'm trying to take myself back. I think the buzzword when Ten Hag came in was sort of a lack of discipline. That's what it felt like when Eric came in. Like under Ralph Rangnick, they just sort of like took the piss out of the supply teacher. They just did what they wanted. And it felt like we needed somebody who could come into the dressing room and bring some real discipline. Also fitness. Discipline and fitness felt like the two biggest issues when Ten Hag just came in. Intensity is absolutely the buzzword. Control, someone's saying down there. Consistency, someone is saying down there. Intensity has been the buzzword. Trust the process, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know. We're all repeating conversations. And truth be told, ladies and gents, we're going to keep repeating these conversations about process and planning and patience until we actually get it right. Dylan, you're saying, what elite team relies on intensity? I think it kind of depends on what... I'll ask this question. Maybe it's a little bit of a confusing question. But when you hear the word intensity, what do you actually take it to mean? It doesn't necessarily mean that a team plays at 100 miles an hour constantly and is permanently running around. I can intensely stare at someone. I don't know whether that's a fair way to describe it, but it doesn't mean that football has to be played at 1,000,000 miles an hour. It just means like the level of commitment that you put to it is 100%. You're intense. And that's what I mean. Like you're talking about running and pressing. I don't think that's necessarily what intensity is. Intensity is like the application for everything that you are doing. For that second ball that's just dropped there, you don't just, let me try and win it. You go in intense. You go in hard. There's a ball that's dropped over there. That's where the pressing comes in. Intensity on and off the ball, that's where it can relate to. Let me see what you're saying down there. Passion and fight, effort, commitment without hesitation. That's a good way to describe it, John. Effort, intensity equals Roy Keane. We're not going to have Roy Keane come back anytime soon, or any other Roy Keane. Still not replace Roy Keane. Still not replace Paul Scholes. Never will. Wayne Rooney. The definition of intensity was Wayne Rooney, wasn't it? Who would you say? And that's a good question to ask. Which Manchester United player of old do you think sums up like the intensity perfectly that you think this team needs? I think Wayne Rooney is the one that comes to my mind straight away. There was never at any point a question as to whether or not Wayne Rooney would just apply 100% of himself. Someone's saying Giggs down there, Gary Neville, Rooney, Valencia, Vidic. Park, Bald Rooney, Brian Robson, Ander Herrera, Beckham. Yeah, Tevez is a pretty fair shout, to be fair. Tevez was a nutcase. Quite a few players you can throw into this conversation, by the way. Carrick, and I wouldn't say that. Carrick's not involved in that conversation. Carrick was way too elegant, I think, is what I would call Carrick. Elegantly intense, is that a thing? Don't really think so. Either way, it's quite a cool conversation, actually. People talking about Ahmad being a good example in the current squad. I think I'd go for Rooney, personally. But intensity, to me, doesn't necessarily just mean at every point you're pressing down on the ball like a terrier, like you're a dog that desperately wants it. And you go back to it and you're talking about the heavy mental football that Jurgen Klopp played. The gegenpressing, right? And that worked until it didn't. And then Liverpool had to have that year off because their whole team was completely and utterly screwed. And then they regained their fitness. That's got an expiration date of like a few years. But intensity to me doesn't necessarily just mean work rate and how much they run. Intensity means like the percentage of commitment at any one point, whether that's to win a header, to win a tackle, in how you're speaking to your teammate. Obviously, if you're going to speak to them 100% intensity, you're just going to shout in their face the whole time. Just a plain and consistent effort for 90 minutes, says Ibrahim. And I think, that obviously we're at basic levels right now. But this will be what drives United's summer. And it should. And until you can look at this squad and say, yeah, the intensity is there now, man. But of course, at the same time as that, you're going to have to bring in the quality and the creativity. And you're going to have to balance those two. King Cantona down there talking about Newcastle's intensity. If you look at Nottingham Forest and what they've done this year, if you look at Newcastle and what they've managed to do over these last 2 years, it's not because they've got the most incredible creative players at all. But that's a little bit unfair. It's not as if Newcastle got a bad squad in the slightest. But the reason that Newcastle have been able to do what they have done in a very short space of time is they have lasered in on intensity. And Joe Linton is the perfect example. An absolutely failed striker. I think he was their record signing at the time as well. Just got converted into a midfielder by Eddie Howe and turned into an absolute monster. A unit that you just can't get past because he plays at 100% intensity. It's not because Joe Linton is the most incredible Zidane-like ball-winning all-round midfielder in the world. It's just like, well, you can't really get the ball off him. And he applies himself at 100% at everything that he does. And it's infectious. Bruno Guimaraes is another example of that type of signing. That's the reason that that's the reason why Newcastle were able to do what they did in the short space of time that they did it. Now, United can't just go to... If United just focus on intensity and nothing else, right, we're not going to win the Premier League anytime soon. But we're building the foundations here. This summer, annoyingly, you might disagree with me, but annoyingly is like the foundation summer. It's going to be Ruben Amorim's first summer. I do still think there is more in this squad that we are seeing. But I've been proven wrong quite a few times about this squad. And then we can go on and speak about individuals, actually, right? For sure, the intention is to bring in at least one player able to play behind the striker, so an inside forward, and one centre forward. Kevin, I agree with you down there. You're saying intensity is infectious. It is. It's an attitude that applies itself almost subconsciously when you've got enough people around you who are doing it, because then you're like, fucking, well, okay, well, I'm jumping on board on this now. It's almost like you need to set a trend at United. There needs to be enough presence that players genuinely feel, without being asked, without being looked at, that they can't get away with putting in 50% effort anymore. Right now, players still feel comfortable enough to do that. And until that changes and the squad dynamics in the dressing room change to the point where everyone's accountable naturally because of the players you've got in there, You're going to have to focus on that in the transfer window. But look, talking here about bringing in one player able to play behind the strikers. So fire in names in the comments, just completely randomly. Let's see who people bring up. If you were to look at an inside forward to sign for United, and try and make it realistic, okay? There's no point. Maybe I suppose there is a point. You can mention Cunha from Wolves, but he's going to cost like 60, 70 million. But what players would you like to see there? Of course, I don't think you can overlook Morgan Rogers. But it's that profile for me. Tall, physical, athletic, with really good ball carrying ability, able to play through the lines, able to offer a goal threat, and also just has an intensity to his game in and out of possession. That, for me, strikes me as the exact profile that we need in terms of an inside forward. Cunha's been mentioned quite a few times. Xavi Simons. Didn't he just, I swear, like, was it Leipzig who just paid like a ridiculous amount for him? Can't remember. Morgan Gibbs-White. It's not an outrageous shout, that. Cherky, that's the one from Lyon. He's more like a technical player, isn't he? Far, far more technical. I do agree, by the way, Kvaratskhelia would have been perfect. Morgan Rogers. I don't particularly think Morgan Rogers is realistic. If I'm thinking about what Villa would genuinely be able to charge for him this summer. He's only 22, you know. That's nuts. I think you're looking north of 70 mil for sure for Morgan Rogers, probably even more. Florian Wirtz, is he going to be leaving? Don't know. Rodrigo, okie dokie. Popper, wah. El Canus. Is it El Canus? Is he the one who plays for Leicester? Yeah, he is. It's going to be interesting to do the summer videos on these players, and in terms of the which would be the ideal ones. Maybe we'll do like a series. Like Tyler Dibbling, I think is definitely one to look at. Kind of a slightly different profile, more of a winger than he is an inside forward, but young enough that he can absolutely be crafted into that player. Quite a few people mentioning Joe Bellingham down there. Arda Güler, I don't think so. As Vinny Jr. signed his new contract. Well, two players that we know we're going to be looking at. Well, one player. And it's not the striker. And we'll speak about the striker next. All right? We know that United are already exploring a move for Kenda. I've been reliably informed that it's Kenda, not Quenda. So I'm going to need to try and remember this. I probably won't. So sue me. Steve saying, chuck my missus in. She's proper intense. Go around dinner with the in-laws. It's like that. You passed me the salt. Are you angry with me? No, it's just pass me the salt. But United are looking at signing Kenda. Should come as no surprise. We're definitely signing another win-back this summer. I don't really like Manchester Evening News are saying, look, Manchester United is still open to signing Kenda. Of course we are. Right? I could easily see United agreeing a deal for Kenda before the season is finished. I could easily see that. And I don't really see why not. I suppose why doesn't it happen more often? Answer on a postcard. Because obviously the transfer window opens. But when a transfer window opens means that's when a club can be deregistered from a club. Sorry, when a player can be deregistered from a club and literally sign for another one. But it doesn't mean that you can't agree a deal before it. So it strikes me that United, like you can see that David Ornstein's already said that United are exploring the deal, so the conversations are already starting. And I don't know why we really mess around with it. Type it in the comments. How much do you think he would cost? I think was it 40 million? If we can get him for 40 mil, it's good. I'm guessing the reason sort of deals don't happen mid-season is because of the distraction it would cause for said player during said season. Sporting right now, if I'm guessing, well, they were 3 points off top last time I looked. Didn't they just concede a last-minute equaliser to Porto? I think they did. Portuguese league. Table. Well, that's changed. I'm pretty sure last time I looked at that, Sporting were... Well, yeah, you can see how it's changed. Sporting were 3 points off top last time I looked, but Porto haven't won 1 in 5 games. What's going on at Porto? And Benfica have lost 2 out of the last 5. So now, Sporting are 4 points clear at top of the table. Could well be that they get the title again this year. That's maybe why they wouldn't deal. Yeah, I think it's probably right. It's a little bit too destabilising for the clubs. 70 million is what the reports are saying in Portugal. I would say good luck on that. I stand by my prediction that I made last summer. United will not make a signing for the next, I'd probably still say 2 more summer transfer windows. I don't think we'll make a signing north of 50 million. Now, that may well rule out, by the way, this man. What's 50 million pounds in euros? What's that, like 55 million? Something like that. I don't know. How much do you think? I think Gyökeres leaves Sporting this summer. Arsenal need a striker. Chelsea will sign everyone from everyone, so you can always involve Chelsea in a conversation, no matter who they've got in the squad. Who else is going to be in the market for a striker? City are fine-ish. Liverpool will kind of depend on what goes on with Darwin Núñez and whether or not Salah signs a new contract. Could well be that Liverpool are in for a striker. Spurs just spent all their money in Solanke. They won't have the money for him. Someone's saying you would rather go for Isak. Hey, dude, man. How much are you going to try? How much are you going to... Isak would cost... Honestly, I think Isak would cost like 80 mil. Barcelona people saying down there. Either way, there is going to be a massive market for Victor Gyökeres. And if United were to sign him, it would be a very different type of signing to all the other ones we're making. Victor Gyökeres is 26, I think going on 27. He's in his prime. He is an established, experienced goal scorer. He's done his time in the Championship. He's gone there to Sporting. He's won lots at Sporting. He's only continued to develop and improve. Price-wise, there is a possibility we get priced out on Gyökeres. Because that's the sort of investment that I think Ineos or Barada will look at and go, there's question marks on that one. Because of the age that he is, if he is successful, then boom, he comes in. 3 years of elite goal scoring at that level, you look back at the price and go, yeah, that's sound. But if it doesn't work out, then United have spent 60 million euros there or thereabouts on a striker whose value is only going to be decreasing and going to go down, and you might have to make a loss, and then you're kind of stuck in the same situation. Someone mentioned him, Liam Delap down there. But I think that's a conversation that will be held. If I was to make a prediction, I think United would would consider Kenda better value than what they're going to be offered with Gyökeres. Because of all the younger players we've been signing, whether it's Lenny Yoro, Diego Leon, Sekou Kone, Patrick Dorgu, all of these fit a very specific style. Gyökeres would break that. However, and this is something that I agree with, kind of had this debate with the lads in the team, and you need that blend between experience and youth. It can't just go full experience because you'll be an old fart team. You won't be able to run around. You also can't go pure youth because then you're going to be lacking experience at key times. So you need to get a bit of a blend. Would Gyökeres be where United make that move to bring in the experience? Someone down there's talking about Girassi. Well, he was available. Like, they're two strikers, I'm really confused as to why United didn't move for either of them. Number one is Marcus Thuram when he left. Who was it he left? Was it Lille? I can't remember where it was. No, it was someone in Germany. Stuttgart? Can't remember. Either way, Marcus Thuram left on a free, went to join Inter, and has been fantastic since. And then Girassi, he left, I think, Stuttgart and joined Dortmund for, I think, 12 million euros. Has been class. Someone talking about Victor Boniface. Of course, he was supposed to be going to Saudi, and then Al Nassr ended up signing John Duran instead. Was that where he was from, Mönchengladbach? Don't know. Either way, I thought those two were confusing. This one's going to be an interesting one. I think on paper, United... On paper, the idea of Gyökeres sounds incredible. He's your elite top-level goal scorer right in, right now. Let's go, boom. But I don't think it actually ties in with this overall strategy which we are approaching the market with. It may well be that United, therefore, don't look at Gyökeres and look for someone else. And Liam Delap would fall into that category. And plenty of others too. Fire some names in the comments, right? If it's not going to be Gyökeres because of the age and the price, what strikers do you think are a part of the conversation? Fire in the comments. I think there's some super chats down here. Rex, you're saying, which strategy is best? Managers with a strict system that players must follow, or a manager who makes a system based on the players he has? I think managers with a strict system, and it's not strict as in there's no freedom and no flexibility in it whatsoever, but a manager should have a framework. And sure, you can tweak and adapt somewhat. But I'd never realised that. That's something that I massively got wrong with Erik ten Hag. I thought he was based in his principles about how he played at Ajax, but the reason he played like that at Ajax was because he had the players there, and he came to United and he went, I thought, sod that. That goes out the window. Let's play a completely different style and system because of who we've got at United. I didn't know that was going to happen. Pyro saying, Sam, what would you do with Xerxes and Højlund in the summer? Who would you keep? Højlund has to do something for me in the second half of this season. Has to. I don't think he can go this entire year playing the way he is and expect that he's guaranteed to be a Man United player the following season. Xerxes, it's his first season, and I will always be slightly more forgiving for players in their first season. And I think at points and at times, I'm like, there you go, Xerxes, you're good. Like when he came off the bench against Leicester, he was getting involved in the right ways. I wouldn't say Højlund's at more risk, but because it's his second year and the development has to be there, which we're just not seeing, that puts him at more risk. Now, of course, I think Rasmus will become a better striker if you get more service to him. And the same thing would go for any striker. But also, at this... Højlund can't go an entire year at Manchester United and not develop. And in fact, regress. And think that his future is secure. And the same goes for every other player, man. Let me see what strikers you're saying down here. Delap's being mentioned. I suppose Cunha could be a conversation around there, but then you're looking at 70 million anyway, so you may as well go for Victor Gyökeres, no? Vlahovic, Osimhen. Again. Well, actually, no, Vlahovic is younger, isn't he? He's like 23. Let's have a look. No, he's 25. Vlahovic is 25. Osimhen is 26. Yeah, maybe it's his striker position. And you're mentioning Jonathan David being on a free. Would I look at Jonathan David and think that he's the perfect striker solution for Ruben Amorim? I'm not sure I would. Welbeck, Jean-Philippe Mateta, Ekitike. Is he the one that went to PSG and then left PSG? I think so. It's going to be an interesting one. So in terms of the inside forward position, there's lots of names that we mentioned there. There's lots more names that will be mentioned. But if I was to guess where a surprise signing would come, I might do it in the striker position. Because I think everyone's going to be speaking about Gyökeres. Just get the sneaky suspicion that that won't align with what Ineos want to do strategy-wise. Weghorst, bring it back. Old Veggie. Got a goal and assist the other day. Go on, boys. This one's a little bit random. We'll move on. As I said, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a follow-up for that my lunchtime video, and we can follow that up by doing some more research and looking into the number 10 position and the striker position and the wing back position and all the different players, right? This one's a slightly random conversation. I don't know whether this is going to go any further than just a bit of a whisper from Spain. But this whisper from Spain is suggested that United are interested in signing Athletic Bilbao's sporting director, Mikel Gonzalez. Now, of course, we all know what makes Athletic Club or Athletic Bilbao a special club. Are they the only club in La Liga that do it as well? Are they the only? What other clubs in the world operate this policy where they only sign players from the Basque region, in and around the local area? Remember at that time where they came to Old Trafford and they played us off the park? Did they have what's his face? Marco Bielsa. Was he their manager at that time? They had like Iker Muniain. They had Ander Herrera. Who else they have? Can't remember. It's quite a few names. I think they knocked us out. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting, this idea that Manchester United were even considering or even looking at Athletic Club's sporting director. Now, of course, he has had experience elsewhere. He's been their sporting director since 2022. Was the director of development before, but prior to that, he's been head of scouting at Alaves. No idea where NK Isra is. But he has had different roles. Hey, what is it, Bielsa? Lorente up top. Yeah, now I'm remembering. Bembe, you're saying the Real Sociedad got the same policy. I don't know. I found that an interesting concept. People will be like, well, why would you possibly go and get a sporting director in who only works with players that he can sign from the local region? Well, he's done other stuff before. But I don't know. I'm going to be interested to see if that whisper goes any further. I really am. Pyro, thank you for gifting 5 memberships down there. You legend. Steve, you're saying, I think if we fix the midfield, we will see our current strikers getting more goals. Yeah, you know that. Everyone knows that, right? You're just United as an overall team is just... Now, I want to have a quick conversation here towards the end of the show about Diogo Dalot. He did a... NK Istra is in Croatia, apparently. I love Croatia. I think if I ever got mega rich, I'd buy a house, in like a holiday home in Croatia. That'd be awesome. But Diogo Dalot, right? This is what he was saying yesterday. He goes, we can win a Premier League with Ruben. I think realistically we can win it. Then it becomes the most difficult thing to hear as a fan that it will take time. And following on from that quote, just wanted to sort of pull this up. Let's have a little conversation around Diogo Dalot, right? Because last season, Dalot was one of our most consistent performers. And let's be totally honest, it wasn't particularly hard given how bad Manchester United were. But last season, I thought that... I remember plenty of times looking at the team going, oh, Dalot's played well again. Oh, he's done well again. Yeah, Dalot again. Oh, Dalot this, Dalot that. And he was kind of pretty reliable. He wasn't spectacular, but he was pretty reliable last season. And if you look at him this season, I don't know whether it's like recency bias. That's why I'm asking you. Where is it that you stand on Diogo Dalot? Because he certainly talks a good game. He really does. Mainly you're saying, I'll never doubt his efforts, but he keeps making mistakes on the pitch and has those moments of lapses regularly. Jonathan saying he's nowhere near good enough. He's an athlete, but he doesn't have the football brain. I think that's a pretty fair way to describe him. Like, who was it we were playing the other day? Crystal Palace. When that ball went over to the back post and Munoz, who was their right wing back, or was it right back? I don't know. Came in from the back post. And Diogo Dalot, like the ball was coming over to him and he just went... He just ducked below the ball. I was dead confused about that. And I completely agree with comments that are coming in down here. He has got to play on that right-hand side. And I'm really confused as to... Well, I was confused by the whole Patrick Dorgu playing on the left. Sorry, playing on the right. And Dalot still playing on the left. Ravi, I would agree with that. You're talking about that. Dalot seems like a good lad. And at a time where we question intensity and effort levels, I don't think you can say that about him. But I'm not sure. Truth be told, if we win the Premier League, I don't particularly think it will be with Diogo Dalot in the team. I think there's quite a few players that I would move on ahead of Diogo Dalot. Going back to that basic foundation of he actually is athletic. You can actually play him in a team. He will be there week in, week out. And I think he's an all right squad player. But he needs to be played on that right-hand side. Yeah, I know. Even on the right-hand side, defensively, he lets his players beat him at the back post. And so did Wan-Bissaka before. Who was it? Leipzig? Remember the balls over the top to the back post when we conceded like 2 goals in first 7 minutes away from home, I think. Champions League. I think that was it. Bring back Darmian. Would you swap Dalot for the lad at Sporting and save money? I mean, swap deals really rarely happen these days. And was it Porto that Dalot played at before? Would that rule him out going back there? I don't know. I think, as I said, there's quite a few players that I would like to see leave the club before Dalot in terms of the priority order. But he makes so many questionable decisions. And I don't think all of that is directly related to him playing on the left-hand side, but it feels like it. It feels like at least part of it. Wan-Bissaka's a far superior defender compared to Dalot. Do people still... Well, we had a little mini argument in the comments the other day, didn't we, about Wan-Bissaka. Still stand by the fact that he needed to leave when he left. I don't think we particularly missed him since. It's going to be an interesting one, okay? And I just hope that between now and the end of the season, I never wanted to... As soon as Dorgu came in, I thought, fantastic, we won't see Dalot at left wing-back. That's going to be a big improvement. And then the next game, we saw Dalot at left wing-back, and all the same problems that existed in all the games before were right there again. I was like, oh. And that's why that's why I was confused about it. Like, Amorim's a smart manager, he's a smart guy. They look and they analyse. They can see that any time the ball went to the left, it came back, and no progression was possible down that left-hand side. Will that completely change with Dorgu coming in? Maybe not straight away, but the passing patterns, the passing angles and all that jazz, and the overlap ability for both players would be better on the opposite wings to where they played the other week. And that's why I want to see Dorgu on the left-hand side. Actually, I can't really be asked to talk about Jadon Sancho anymore. Nah, I'm going to dead that conversation. Sod that. Last minute of the show then. Everyone firing your questions in your comments. The lunchtime video today is going to be all around that Fabrizio video and conversations around intensity, kind of what that means. Going to get some of your responses that you sent to me on Twitter. All that jazz. Stevie saying small fixes, we'll get there. Well, we need a lot of small fixes, let's be honest. We are some way off. Richie, talking about the young lad at Sunderland, Chris Rigg. We've already mentioned him before. Chris Rigg is a player we're definitely going to be looking at. Tyler Dibbling is another player we're definitely going to be looking at. Someone in the Premier League is going to sign Tyler Dibbling. Jonathan, he's saying Adel Gomez on a free. Now, on paper, when you look at that and you go, because I've already done this, you look at that and you go, well, Christian Eriksen out, Angel Gomez in. From a technical on-the-ball perspective, you go, there's a lot to like there. And then I go there and I speak about the intensity and the physicality. And Angel Gomez is a whippet. It doesn't mean that it's impossible to fit him in a Premier League team. But it's just something that you have to look at and consider. And it kind of goes against what I'm saying about that intensity and the athleticism as a combination. Adam Wharton. Well, Adam Wharton is somebody who's missed a lot of this season through injury. I think he made his first appearance off the bench in a while against United. So let's see how he continues to play, because when he came up from the Championship, he looked brilliant. Yeah, someone's going to be signing Tyler Dibbling, and I think they're going to be very, very happy. Favourite fruit drink? Orange and pineapple. Robinson's. It's the only squash you're allowed. My mate Ben, who's clearly not watching, he's so obsessed with summer fruits. I swear he's at least 30% summer fruits. His bloodstream is all sorts of wrong. Angel Gomez would be perfect alongside Ugarte. Well, somebody like that, like a ball progressor, an actual ball player, like give me the ball, let me drive through that gap. We'll find out. But look, thank you all for tuning in. I thought that was a pretty cool conversation there today. My lunchtime video is going to be around the intensity of United summer plans and conversations around those, because we've got some space to have this conversation. I'll tell you what, tomorrow night, I watched the first draft of it earlier today. We've got our next United People's Productions is going to be about Marcus Rashford and the sort of polarizing story of Rashford over the years. I've wanted to do a video on Marcus Rashford for so long, but I've never fully figured out the right way to present it. Big up to Steve for helping write this one. You'll love it. It's a really, really good one. That's going out tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Thank you all for tuning in. Please do drop a like on the video. Tell you what now, look at this. We're nearly at 487. The road to 500 is going to get started very, very soon. We're going to be doing giveaways, maybe a little cheeky PS5 raffle. Huh? Why not? Take it easy, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow morning. And yeah, go listen to the podcast if you haven't already. Why wouldn't you?